listen for this song.
Yes, that is right, folks. I'm interviewing Right Said Fred, the band responsible for the hit singles I'm Too Sexy and Deeply Dippy, the former being sampled and interpolated by some of the biggest acts of the 21st century. And with that all said, Richard and Fred Fairbrass of Right Said Fred, how are you two doing today?
We're all right,
Very well,
thank you.
Chap. Yeah, we're good.
Yeah, we're very, very good. Interpolated, you actually said that right.
Good man.
Well done.
Yes.
Everybody says it's a sample, but it's not. It's
No.
interpolation. Well done.
Well, that probably helps because I have a bit of a music background, so it probably helps with that. But I'm glad I got it right. But I suppose the first question I got for you two today is you both are brothers, and you both sort of done music practically together for your whole life. So how did you both sort of get into music together?
Okay. I started playing guitar when I was about 12, I think. And I took it quite seriously. So I got a tutor and I had a classical guitar and I learned my finger picking and all this sort of stuff. And then Richard, and I wanted to do that because I wanted to write songs. So I needed an instrument. And when I started writing, Richard quite liked some of the stuff I was writing. So he and being a Paul McCartney fan, he started playing, he got a bass and started playing along.
Was a Paul McCartney fan.
Was a Paul McCartney fan.
Yeah,
Was. But yeah, eventually you ended up forming the band together, Right Said Fred. So how did that sort of come about where it was like, yeah, let's make a band and yeah.
Yeah, we first went on the road in '78 with a band with our band called The Actors, and we were supporting Suicide, who are a New York electronica duo. And on that tour, we did shows with Joy Division and The Addicts and a few other bands around at the time. And then we just in and out of record deals under different names. And then we came back from America, having been signed to Capital EMI in New York in '87. And that deal went sour. So we came back and we just wanted to be independent. So we just put Right Said Fred together with no real intention of getting a deal, although we did play it to some labels who hated I'm Too Sexy. They all turned it down. We kind of thought we were happier not being in the matrix, really, just because we were tired of record labels. So that was it. We just started, we put Sexy out on a white label. Our manager got it played on Radio 1, care of Simon Bates, and also Gary Crowley. And the record, to be honest with you, the record just took off. It almost did. Apart from getting it played and making a video, the record just went mental.
It did, yeah.
It wasn't really.
We were chasing it pretty much.
Yes,
all the time.
It just went out of control.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't. The record, yes, it a bit like records like I think if Relax, Frankie Goes to Hollywood, if that had been an independent release, it would have done the same without
PSY.
Yeah, Gangnam Style, PSY, all sorts of songs. They seem to have a momentum of their own, and I think I'm Too Sexy one of those.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, it definitely did. It became a massive hit in the 90s that people still recognize. I had a neighbor of mine, when I mentioned I'm interviewing Right Said Fred, they went, no way, those guys, because of how big the tune is.
Yeah.
So how was that song I'm Too Sexy made? What was sort of the inspiration behind it? And what was your reaction to it just blowing up and then ending up on shows like Top of the Pops and all that?
Well, I think that the song was originally it was the bass line for another song, and we were working in a studio and I could hear the bass line running around on a loop, and it was the first time we'd used a computer. We'd never used a computer before, and I could hear the loop going round and round and round, and just started singing "I'm Too Sexy for My Shirt." That's it, and then we sort of thought we were working with Rob Manzoli at the time. And we sort of thought that was a neat idea. And then Frank came up with a way of bringing the whole thing into some kind of logical, making sense in a way with the lyrics. And to be honest with you, I think if we were really obsessed with money, we would never have done it because it was nothing like anything else that was going on at the time. And very often being skint is a good thing because when your back's against the wall, you just don't care.
Yeah.
You're reckless. You're reckless. You have nothing to lose because you've got nothing in the first place.
Yeah.
So I think if we had all had buckets loads of money, we would never have we would never have released it. I think we would have been we would have worried about losing at whatever momentum we had. But with Sexy, we had no momentum. So we just There you go. And it made us laugh. We just thought it was funny. We thought it was, it was a real surprise when the thing took off. And it didn't really hit us, I don't think, until it was #1 in America. That was the moment. That was a game changer for us when we suddenly realized, oh, right, okay, this is going mental.
Yeah, and we had some stats thrown at us in terms of how many people had actually been #1 in America at that time, and also how many British artists have been #1 in America at that time. And it's actually quite a small amount when you put it in just in numbers.
750.
Yeah, we met some other songwriters, and we were doing loads of radio, and they were throwing all these stats at us. And it was at that point in America where we thought, this has gone way out of our reach and control, and out of our manager's control and the record company we were with. It was out of their remit. They weren't like us. They weren't experienced enough really to deal with it.
Nor were we.
No, us, yeah. No. The record just had legs of its own, and I think what's really surprised people is its longevity,
and the fact that we're not dead.
Yeah, the fact that,
I think the fact that we're still alive is really irritating to some people.
Yeah, and I think what really pisses off a lot of people is the fact that it's been reimagined, by Drake and Beyoncé and Taylor Swift and Sophie Tucker and all these different people. And I think the people that turned it down and was so rude about it at the time, I mean, Island Records comes to mind. That they were just toxic, and I think what's annoyed them is they now know that they missed out not only on millions of pounds, but also on a song that's proved to be an evergreen, and I think that shows them to be pretty inept. And I think that's where I had a guy from Island Records chat with me on Facebook, and he was just rude and unpleasant, and like they were 30 odd years ago, So I think the trackers, it's a poison chalice. I'm very proud of it, and I never tire of the song. But it also comes with a responsibility, because you can't deny its success, but also you have other songs that in some territories we have other songs that are bigger than Sexy, but it's very hard. It's very hard to get that across, and people do like to pigeonhole people. They love it. Yeah. And we were approached recently by a documentary maker, and they said, we'd like to include you in the documentary and talk about Sexy and your other stuff. So we said, what's it going to be called? They said, One Hit Wonders. So I said, well, why are you talking to us? Because you've only got to look at our credits. That isn't the case. But people like a label. They like to better go. The media love a label. So it makes it easy for them to put people in a box. It saves them to actually having to think.
Yeah, exactly.
But it definitely did become a massive success, as you did mention there, and you did touch a little bit into the fact that it was interpolated by such acts like Taylor Swift and Drake and Beyoncé. It even got a cover by Crazy Frog, of all people.
That's right.
So I'd like to ask you a little bit about the Taylor Swift thing, because a lot of people I know are huge fans of Taylor, love her music and everything, and would probably love the song as well, Look What You Made Me Do. So how did that come about, where Taylor was basically wanting to interpolate your tune?
Well, we got
an email.
Yeah, we got an email and a phone call from our publisher, who was Spirit Music. And they said, the email first, they said we need to talk, because they didn't want to put it in writing, because it was the first song off Bad Reputation, and they want to keep it all under wraps.
She doesn't have.
No, and so they phoned us up and said, this artist is gonna, they've interpolated, and I said, well, can you actually explain to me what that means? And they said, basically, it's a reimagination. It's taking an idea and making it fit into their idea. And we said, fine. And they were a bit reluctant to tell me who the artist was, and I said, you've got to tell me, because it's not fair. So they told us. We said, well, that's very cool. And then we were dealing with Taylor Swift's PR company, and a lady called Tree Payne, and she seemed lovely. And then we got some flowers from her and Jack Antonoff. So
lovely.
Yes, exactly. So from our perspective, the experience with Taylor Swift was a very positive one.
And same with Blake.
And the same with Drake.
Blake.
And Blake.
And Blake.
Yeah.
His records.
Yeah, they were very communicative.
They
Yeah,
were.
yeah.
Bunch of flowers we got and everything.
Yeah, very nice.
Yeah. I mean, with Drake as well. I mean, what a big name in rap, and what a complete reimagination of the tune that Drake and his other features like Future did.
Yeah.
What was it like having Drake just go and take your hit and make it his own?
Well, what's interesting is that
I think he did a good job.
Yeah, we really like the fact that he turned it into a minor key, or I think the sample, because they didn't sample us, they sampled someone's doing a version of us.
Yeah.
And it's in the relative minor, or it's in, maybe not, or just the E minor. I can't remember now. And what's interesting about that is when we first recorded "I'm Too Sexy," we actually went into a minor play out at the end. So it's quite interesting that they did that, 30 odd years on. But we really like it. The minor key gives the song a really interesting atmosphere.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. It makes it a little bit more brooding.
Yeah, it does. Yeah,
I think but they all communicated really. But in terms of Drake, they actually sent us the demo. They actually sent us kind of a rough demo of what they're planning to do, which is amazing.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant because, like, I mean, and probably more open than what Taylor Swift and her team was. Because, like, I mean, if they're sending you the demo, like, I mean, they're really involving you in that creative process, even though you're not really featuring fully in it.
Yeah, I mean, we're thinking of doing I won't mention it because it hasn't been approved, but we're thinking of doing a cover of someone's song. And we're trying to be as respectful to that as people have been to us. So we're contacting the publisher, we're telling them what the plan is, and hopefully that it will be a reciprocal arrangement.
Yeah.
So I think it's important. I think content creators, and I hate that expression, but that's what we are. Get treated very, very poorly. Overall, and songwriters are quite often the last people record companies think about once the song's a hit. They'll praise the artist, they'll praise the PR company. When it comes to songwriters, it's they kind of get forgotten. And I think particularly with the digitalization of music, where you don't see the credits anymore, I think that's a huge shame.
Well, you can see the credits for the songwriting on Spotify, which brings me on to sort of the Beyoncé interpolation.
Yeah.
Because I did check the credits for the Alien Superstar interpolation, and I was going, goodness gracious, why is there 20 songwriters on this? This is ridiculous.
It is ridiculous, yeah. I mean, I don't know whether we weren't involved. We were kept away from that process completely, and I don't know why or who, under whose auspices that was, whether it's our publisher or Beyonce's team. I don't really know. We weren't really
privy.
Yeah, we weren't privy to it at all. Yeah. And I don't know why you'd have that many writers unless people are just you're just giving away writing credits for the fun of it. I don't actually know. It does get pretty. I mean, if you actually imagine 22 people in a room
coming up with one idea,
it's a bit ridiculous. But it's the nature of the modern game. It's not the first time a lot of writers have been seen on a song. So I don't know if 22 is the most. I'm not sure.
We know a writer who was working with some people in LA, and when they're constructing a track, they have a programmer for the drums. They have a guy who does the guitars. They have another guy who does the bass. Another guy who does. But all these people, unless they're just paid off, would be saying, "I want to be part of this track." That's where the money is in the publishing.
Yeah,
and so maybe that's what's going on here. Maybe it's a question of keeping people happy. I think with a bit of a cut of the.
I think producers certainly will want part of the publishing because production points really aren't worth much anymore compared to how they were.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that could explain it. That could, I'm not a total expert of the extreme inside of the music industry, but I think now that you put it to me, it does kind of make sense that's what they kind of do. Yeah. If someone sneezes on the record, I wrote it.
Yeah, it's also what they call proximity. It's also, even if you're in the room, you can claim, even if you didn't do anything, but you're in the room, you have proximity. Then you may have an argument for claiming some kind of publishing cut.
Yeah, we weren't party to it. So to be honest with you, it's a nice credit to have. I think particularly in the last 3.5 years where, because of us voicing an opinion, we kind of got blacklisted. And so for Taylor Swift, Drake and Beyoncé to weigh in during those fallow years,
Yeah, it was
I have
good.
to say,
Yeah.
was the gods smiling on us. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. They were cool.
Yeah,
They were very, very cool.
Yeah.
But you had other hits other than I'm Too Sexy, as you mentioned earlier, one of them being Deeply Dippy.
Yeah.
Now, I'd love to mention this one to you because my dad absolutely loves this song, and he told me that it is his most favorite pop song that incorporates a brass solo. So how did that tune come together, and what was the inspiration behind the brass solo?
Well, the title, we should say, comes from Jeeves and Wooster thing. Because we were working with Rob Manzoni at the time, and he heard the expression "Deeply Dippy" on a Jeeves and Wooster episode. So that title was where that came from, and the brass section was arranged by Molly Duncan, who was he
Average White Band.
Average White Band, and very sadly he died about 2 years ago.
Oh Jesus!
Yeah, he arranged it, and when we heard the brass arrangement and what he had done. That's when I suddenly thought, in a way, I didn't really care whether it was a hit or not. I just really, really loved it. It wasn't really. And I remember we had to promote the song at Capital Radio, I think it was at the time. And the song they played before us was Oceanic, which was a really banging kind of, dance floor thing. And I was sitting in reception and they were just playing bits of Deeply Dippy over the microphone. I just remember thinking, we're stuffed. Was absolutely stuffed. This track, donkey, 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 and I thought, what we can. Yeah. So when it became number one, we were, and it also broadened the appeal of the album.
Yeah, it did. Took us away from the dance vibe.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was also good to have it because the record company didn't want it on the album to begin with.
What?
So, yeah, they didn't know. So what happened is that we had "Don't Talk Just Kiss" as a second single, and that was top 5 at Christmas, I think. And so by the time we got to discussing Deeply Dippy, we were in a much stronger position. So we pushed it through. They were trying to say, "No, can't you make it into a dance track?" And we said, "It's not a dance track; it's a swing track." Da, da, da,
150 BPM.
Yeah, to make it work, you have to go fast. So we had a bit of a fight with the label, but we got there in the end. And I think I think they found it a little bit irritating that song they didn't want on the album proved to be our first number one. So, it
was sort of like a Britpop song way before Britpop.
Yeah.
It's Kinks, it's Chaz and Dave,
yeah, exactly.
Or even you can even imagine Blur doing it. Yeah, Part Life, not a million miles from it.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's a great little tune, and just it still sounds really good even to this day. And there's another tune that you have. Now, it wasn't written necessarily like a hit single, but it did hit into the charts. It was actually the first introduction I had to you. Right. And that was the song Wonder Man that you did for the Sonic the Hedgehog 3 commercial.
We did.
I want to mention this one to you because I'm a big fan of Sonic, and a lot of people I've interviewed have worked on Sonic. So what was it like making a little tune for Sonic the Hedgehog?
Explain.
Well, what happened was we had the song called Wonder Man.
Yeah.
And then we were approached by Sony or whoever owned it. I can't remember whoever owns it. And they said...
Sega.
Sorry?
Sega.
Sega, sorry. And they wanted to sit down with the lyricist, which I tend to do most of the lyrics. So I went along with my guitar and I sat there. I've never done this before, but I don't ever want to do it again. I sat there with the creative team and we went through the lyrics word by word. And they sort of said, well, we need to get this word in here. And do we really need that but? Can we get rid of that but? It was a painful process. But we actually enjoyed, once the song was done, we actually quite enjoyed it. And we liked having the song as a part of a video game. We thought that was very cool. And apart from that particular bit, the rest of the process was actually quite good fun.
Yeah, Fred had to go through the ringer.
Yes, it was a bit
lyrically.
Painful. It was a bit painful.
Yeah,
we got there.
Yeah. I think Sega have become much looser with this sort of Sonic song. I can tell there's a lot of like intentional Sonic references, like take a nap and he'll spin attack and stuff. But newer Sonic songs don't really do those obvious references. You could really listen to them outside it and not even think it was from Sonic.
But they sent me a list of words that they would like in the song. I had a list. So I worked them in there and try and make them specific. And I was surprised that they thought it needed to be more
specific.
So I went in there, and it was quite.
It's always weird when you're working with somebody else. Yeah, we wrote a song for a guy in Germany, and the brief was it needs to be a fairly simple song. So we tried to write a song that was as simple and as banal as we possibly could. And when the reaction came back, they said, no, it's too complicated.
Yeah. It was too complicated.
So we just,
we said, okay, well,
whatever.
We're out of this.
Yeah, we're out of this. Yeah.
Oh my God, that's funny. But yeah, that's just something I thought I mentioned, because it's not really something that's really spoken about regarding like Sonic songs that you guys did a tune. And I think it's because for Sonic 3, and I'm not even sure you're aware of this, Michael Jackson worked on the game uncredited.
Did he?
Yeah, he did, yep.
I didn't know that.
And his song Stranger in Moscow, you listen to the very end, the Sonic 3 credits, it's basically Stranger in Moscow.
Oh,
right.
It's got the same progression, there's like jam, and a couple of, his producer, Brad Buxter, had a couple of like other songs as well in it. But he was uncredited because he didn't like the sound. There's kind of like two reasons why. One, he didn't like the sound of the Sega Mega Drive, and two, the child abuse allegations against him at the time.
Right.
Okay, yeah. All right, yeah. I mean, I've never really played video games. We just did it because we quite like when people challenges. We quite like. Sometimes we don't think things through very well.
Almost never.
Yeah.
Since when?
Since when?
Yeah, we do. Exactly. People say, "Oh, can you do this?" And we go. We don't even. We just think, yeah, that'd be interesting. It's like when we did the Smurfy thing.
And we painted our faces.
Oh my God! I was just going to ask you about that.
Sometimes it's only after the event we go.
Oh my God!
What the fuck did we do that?
Yeah.
And I don't know. And sometimes we just like the process. We enjoy the process.
And also, we get a kick out of doing things that we have a feeling nobody else in the pop business would do.
Yes, we quite like that.
We quite like just being irritating.
Yeah,
I think we get a kick out of that, and I think it started with I'm Too Sexy. I think that irritates people as much as anything else. You know?
Yeah,
because it's still around, and so are we. And I think that's that for some people they find that deeply disturbing. You know.
Yeah, I think that there's a few things we've done, and we just get
the Smurf thing.
We kind of like the challenge. We were asked to write the music for The Mask. You know, Jim Carrey.
Yeah,
and then the production team changed, which meant the publisher changed, which meant we got kicked out. But we had written 2 songs up to that point, and we didn't even see much of the film really, but we just quite like the challenge of it.
Yeah,
we quite like, this is a project, can you do this? And we quite enjoy that. We quite enjoy having parameters, and you've got to stick within this little thing.
Sometimes for songwriting, it's actually quite good to have a a goal. As opposed to having a blank sheet of paper and you have no idea where you're going with it. Not all the time, but sometimes it's nice to have this is what we've got to do. It's got to suit that. It's got to work within those parameters. So that can be quite a good discipline.
Yeah, and speaking of goals, there's another tune that you have called Stand Up for the Champions.
Yes, yeah.
Very successful tune as well. What was that like working on that tune?
We were writing with a guy called Clyde Ward.
Yeah.
He came to us with the basic idea, I think the chorus and some other bits. And then Richard wrote the middle 8, and then Clyde and I did the rest of the lyrics. And the idea was the idea for Richard and I was it was written after 9/11. The idea being that when things go horribly wrong, what you need is firemen, police, doctors. You need these people. You don't need bloody celebrities and Instagram.
I could have been useful then.
Yeah, exactly. So the idea was you need when things go horribly wrong,
essential workers.
You need essential workers.
Yeah.
That was the idea of the song.
Yeah.
And then it got picked up by the sports community, so it's been used in NFL and the World Cup and Premiership and rugby and all tons and tons of stuff, and which has been great because we've played at the Allianz Stadium in Germany, Schalke Stadium, Dortmund. So that's the song's has been good to us.
Yeah. And when you write a song, also once it's out and recorded, you lose control of it, obviously.
Oh yeah.
So with "You're My Mate," which was a big hit in Germany, and a sort of hit over here in the UK, it became a big gay line dancing track
in Texas.
In Texas,
it did, yeah.
So, you can never ever tell where a song will end up. It's impossible to know. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, what you've described to me there, it completely changes the meaning of the song for me. Because when I heard it, I thought it was just a World Cup commission song or something like that.
No.
But now that you're mentioning it was actually about the real frontline people at such tragic events like 9/11, I mean, what a different story it gives.
Yeah, if you actually think it is all about that. And we have a bit of a problem with the way celebrities jump on the latest bandwagon, whatever it happens to be, using celebrity achieved in one area and then transposing it into something entirely different. And so we tried to write that song about the essential worker thing. And then, of course, it just again, much like I was saying, you lose control of a song, and people pick it up for whatever reason they want.
Yeah, I think it's like with who I don't think Jack White ever thought Seventh Nation Army would be a football song.
No.
I don't think he ever thought that through. And who would have thought that? And I think it's you just don't. You know, you just get on, you write a song, and suddenly it gets hijacked by whoever. You know,
exactly.
Yeah, that's and I seem that a lot of musicians and composers I've interviewed have practically said the same thing, where they write this song for one thing or the other, or a deep meaning, and now it's memeing somewhere in the world. It's like it just goes everywhere.
Exactly.
With the internet now, it gets, as you say, gets picked up for a TikTok song or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like a pinball. It just spins out of control.
Exactly.
You know, which can be great. I think from our point of view, you know, with the use of some of our songs in films, like, you know, Beverly Hills Chihuahua and a lot of the Disney stuff, we've got a fan base that weren't even alive when we first did Sexy.
Yeah.
Because of the usage, you know.
Which I was about to also ask as well, because of the interpolations, the samples. Do you have a younger audience? But clearly you do, since you mentioned
we do.
to me there.
Yeah, I think the thing is with I'm Too Sexy particularly, and the way we broke, it goes through the generations, and Dippy helped to do that. And so, you know, we'll get asked for autographs and stuff, but kids in the 10 and below. And
that's mad.
It is, yeah. I mean, you know, we recorded I'm Too Sexy in 1991 or whatever it was.
Yeah,
1990.
Yeah, 1991.
So it is bizarre, and I think that's why Mick Jagger got up and did the whole thing with Taylor Swift. You know, it's the same thing. It's the same. You know, let's see if the old bloke can get some young totty. It's that kind of.
Oh yeah, exactly. Because I know Paul McCartney as well. He did the same thing. He did the music for Destiny, the video game. So like, you know, it just seems to be a thing that happens. And you also have kind of remade some of your earlier work in a new little vinyl and CD called The Singles, and you've also thrown in a couple of new songs there. What was it like coming back to sort of the older stuff, redoing it, making it a bit more punchy, I tend to find, and then putting in a couple of new tunes that you've written here and there?
Well, the idea was brought to us by Plastic Head, who are a distributor, and they thought there was a market for it, and they proved to be right. And so what we did was, over the years, we've revisited songs for playing live, because you kind of get a bit bored with doing the same thing. So you try and add some change bits. And the versions of the hits that are on that album tend to be the ones that grew from us playing them live.
Exactly.
So Sexy goes into this chilled out bit, and Deeply, Don't Torture Us Kiss has got more of an EDM, not EDM, but like a little repetitive hook in it. And so we just play around with some ideas. And then the other songs we kind of had already, which could Tide had already been, I think Tide had already been a hit, and then we'd released Godsend and We're All Criminals that had done all right, and then we wrote Spiritual War for the album. And
also I think, you know, it's also we never felt like we were going back with these songs, as Fred says, because we've been playing these songs live one way or the other for all the, you know, for years now, and with the new songs we'd written them during the whole lockdown nonsense. And just keeping recording kept us sane, but it wasn't a kind of a trip down memory lane for us. These tracks are consistently in our thinking all the time, because we play them all the time and we like them all the time. So we didn't have to buy a book of chart chords and remind ourselves of what we were doing, because we lived those songs all the time.
Yeah, well, that's brilliant. And I'm glad that it has been doing well. However, I tried finding the album in Ireland in Golden Disc and Tower Records, and I wasn't able to find it anywhere.
No.
Where has it been in any sort of like? Is it anywhere in Ireland that you can go buy or whatnot, or is it just online? What's the story there?
Amazon probably is the easiest.
Yeah, but HMV stocked it. And to be honest with you, in the UK, generally, we have a problem. We have, there's a lot, has been since the 90s, we've always had a lot of resistance. The album's done really well in sort of Central Europe, and we sold out of vinyl just like that. The UK, because there was this knock on from us speaking out from COVID, the book was banned by Waterstones and Rough Trade and Sister Ray and all that lot, and I think they felt the same about the album. So I'll be honest here, we really struggled to get it in a physical entity in shops in the UK. Didn't have that problem anywhere else in the world at all. So which is so it's a shame that you say that, but that's how we are. Yeah, that's kind of where we are in the UK. So
we had a tour manager that is now retired, and she was in the UK not long ago, and she was trying to do the same thing, buy the album through retail, and she couldn't.
No.
And she couldn't buy the book either. So we're going to send her a copy of the book.
Yeah.
But as Fred says, the knock-on effect of speaking out, and there are loads of people out there still who are having serious problems with being deplatformed, as they say. And that was we didn't realize we were getting into that sea until it happened. And once we were there, we just thought, well, that's it.
We can't do much about it. Really.
Can't do much about it. We'll say what we think.
No. So we tend to focus on working abroad.
Yeah.
Our most loyal fan base is abroad. So we and the media is nice to us abroad. We don't get the static abroad that we get here. So we try and work in the UK when the opportunity comes along, but it's rare, to be honest with you. So we tend to not.
Also, we're fine with punters. Punters are lovely.
Yeah, the audiences.
The audiences are fine. That's not the problem. The problem is radio and the media. That's the problem. And people, you can't blame them. They buy what they hear. They buy what they feel is available.
Yes.
And so if they don't hear you on the radio, if they don't see your book in the bookshops, if they don't see evidence of you actually working, they either think you're dead or you've retired.
Exactly.
So you can't. I don't blame the punter at all.
No.
But I do blame radio, and I do blame the mainstream media. Absolutely, they're great.
But I do get some vibe from both of you that although it has affected your reputation in UK and maybe other parts of the world, I do get the sense of vibe that you don't really care that much of what they think. Is that the sort of thing I'm getting, or am I missing the plot?
No, that's true, and also that comes from I'm Too Sexy. We were blacklisted, or whatever word you would call. We were rejected by all the record labels, and actually by a lot of radio at the time. It was Simon Bates and Gary Crowley that broke the record, and basically everybody followed suit. They broke the mold.
But again, sorry to cut across, but again, back in the day, if those two guys hadn't played it, people wouldn't have heard it.
Yeah,
and it would have disappeared.
True.
So unless music and books and whatever else it is, art in general, is given access, sadly we have these what they call gatekeepers. I should just say that we have done some stuff for BBC Regional Radio.
BBC Regional have been great.
And BBC Regional have been fantastic, I've got to say.
And Bauer.
And Bauer. They've been really, really good. So I want to make that correction. But generally speaking, it's an uphill struggle for us.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
It's very interesting to see that you don't care, because there is people out there who genuinely would, and they'd be like, whoa, yes. But you're just like, no.
Well,
nothing.
Yeah, we've kind of had it from day one. Even when we were, when we first broke and we were really hot, there was a lot of hostility towards us at the Brits, at the Mercury Awards, right from the beginning. And the papers like The Enemy, always hostile. And so we've sort of always had it, and we've always managed, because we've been so lucky. We've been lucky to have a good career abroad. We managed to mirror these against each other, and the difference, the way the press talk about us in other countries compared to how they talk about us here, is day and night.
But also, even if suddenly the tide turned in Germany, even if, let's suppose, for argument's sake, the tide turned in Europe and nobody would talk to us, and we would still say what we think.
Yeah, we would. Yeah,
that doesn't matter. I mean, it's great. Yeah, and release what we like. It's great we have support in Germany, and it's great that we have support in Europe and in other countries, South Africa, places like that. But at every single point, you have to say to yourself, when you look in the mirror and have a shave, you know, what sort of person am I if I spend my time saying things I don't believe for money? And we would never do that.
No, try not to.
Yeah, we'd try. Yeah.
Well, that is a very interesting take. Something I've never heard on anyone ever say to me in an interview before, and I'll definitely be thinking about that tonight, because I do think it is really, really interesting how you just don't care. And I suppose last thing I'll sort of end it off with, because I know you have other things to do today. And that is, are you ever going to come back to Ireland? Are you going to come to Ireland and ever do some gigs here? Because like there's a lot of like 80s and 90s acts that kind of come to like places like Forever Young or whatnot, and they do gigs here. They do little small gigs, and you know they get enough of a crowd. So do you ever come over to our side of the pond and?
we would love to, but people tend to think it's down to the artist. Well, you need promoters or agents to say we have these shows for you, and we don't have a problem with that in Europe. But to get an agent or promoter offer us a show in the UK is bordering on impossible.
It is, yes.
So we just don't. We never get asked.
I mean, if there's promoters and people in Ireland, North or South, give us a ring, absolutely. But you know, as Fred says, it's we sometimes we don't even get a response email or a response phone call. It's extraordinary.
No, our two agents are both abroad. We don't have a UK agent, and I don't think we've had one for years now.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Seriously. Yeah.
It's weird. It's
very odd.
It's very odd. Yeah.
There you go. That's some mad stuff. And I suppose my final question I'll ask you, we'll end it on a bit of a high note instead of a little low note. And that is sort of, what has been your absolute most favorite song, or even least favorite song? You could even go into that as well. What was your favorite or least favorite songs that you worked on together?
My favorite song, I think, is
loads of them.
Yeah, I've got a few. I really like We're All Criminals.
Yeah,
I think I like Spiritual War. I really like.
I've got one.
Well, go
on. It's on the album, and it's Do You Feel?
Yeah, from the first album.
Yeah, that's probably, if I had to it's not because I think it's the best song, but in terms of, first of all, the version on the album, I think is fantastic. Cat Deal did a really cool
on the singles album.
On the singles album, a sax solo at the end, and I really enjoy singing it. I think Fred did a great job on the lyrics. So if you put that all together, that would probably be my one favorite piece of work.
Yeah,
so far. And what Fred was saying about Spiritual War and We're All Criminals, what's interesting about that is what changes the way you feel about songs is when you're writing about something that is important to you.
Yes.
So Spiritual War, we were writing about something that we genuinely felt to be true, which is that there is now a spiritual war going on between good people and bad people. I really believe that. And We're All Criminals was written about the whole surveillance society, that the minute you walk out your door, you could be breaking the law, because there's a camera somewhere.
Yes.
You know, you're smoking on the pavement, or you drop a piece of litter, or whatever it is, and they can arrest you for protecting. So those songs were meaningful because of what we were writing about. It wasn't just about love. And Your Mate was actually, funnily enough, I like that because it's about friendship.
Yeah.
It's not about love.
Yeah, it's about friendship.
It's about friendship. And again, it's nice to pick subject matters that aren't touched on very often.
Yeah.
You know, I enjoy that.
Yeah. Well, it's pretty good to hear that you have different sort of favorites that you have instead of the hits, because that doesn't necessarily happen. Some people kind of delve into the hits normally for their favorite song that they worked on.
No. I love the hits, and I love Dippy, and the brass section when we're doing a show gives me a break because I just let the brass. Wonderful. Yeah, it's a wonderful brass section. Molly did a great job. But no, I agree with you. It's those songs. We love those songs. We enjoy playing them. But I get a great kick out of thinking hard about songs that don't get a look in very often.
Yeah.
The Cost of Loving is another song that we did a long time ago, which I really, really like.
Totally.
But it just went by the wayside. It's one of those, you know.
Yeah, well, there you go. There you go. Well, if you're listening to that and you like Right Said Fred and you missed out on those songs, you better listen to them as they're the favorites of the band itself. And with that, I suppose we'll end it there, as I know you've got other things to do today. So with that, Richard and Fred, thank you so much for coming on. Is there any sort of last things you'd like to say? And would you like to plug in the old socials?
Well, just please join us on @the_Freds on Twitter, Right Said Fred on Facebook and Instagram, and even TikTok, I think. So please come along and say hi, and also on the website rightsaidfred.com, we'll be updating stuff as and when it comes in.
It's not Twitter anymore.
Oh, it's X, isn't it?
X.
Oh, God.
Who came up with that?
Dreadful.
Oh, I think it's because Elon Musk, like his first company when he was running PayPal at the time, was called X.com. And so he's doing a full circle thing. I don't know. No. Whatever.
Whatever. Exactly.
Whatever.
Yeah. All right, Jack. Thank you so much.
Yes, you're very welcome. You're very welcome. And you can find me simply on my YouTube channel, Jack Lucas Caffrey. I'm also going to be available on Instagram and Facebook, as it is now open to the public, and I'll be posting all sorts of highlights over on there. But Richard and Fred of Right Said Fred, thank you very much for coming on. And yes, I'll speak to you soon.
Thanks, Jack.
Take care. Thank you.